What's going on, Affected? It's Wolf the Quarantine, and today I'm going to be taking a look at a game that was sent to me to review by the name of Nanty Narking. Now, Nanty Narking, which I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is basically a re-implementation of a game, an old game that is out of print. From what I understand, is a really, really good game called Discworld Ankh-Mork. I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing that, but it's called Discworld. And I've heard a lot about it, and it's a lot of people's grail game. Apparently it's super out of print, but this is apparently a re-implementation or re-implementation of Discworld, and it's Nanty Narking. Now this game takes place in Victorian era London, but it's got a mix of real characters and a combination of fictional characters like Moriarty and Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and those are the only ones that come to mind off the top of my head, but it has a bunch of fictional characters in there with it. And the whole point of the game is trying to achieve your secret objective. At the beginning of the game, everybody's going to be dealt a secret goal, a secret objective, what you have to do to control, either control the city, or win, or have so many of certain tokens out, or there's a wide variety of different objectives, but you're going to have one that is specific to you. And then what you're going to do throughout the course of the game is you're going to play a card, and then you're going to do what that card says. And that's it. That is legitimately all the game is. You're going to play a card, and there's going to be some symbols up on the top left corner, and those symbols correlate to certain actions that you may take. There's one that's mandatory that you wind up having to draw some event cards, and just do what the event cards are. They're like fires and floods, and just generally bad things that happen. But you're going to do all of those things that are on there, and then you may wind up doing the text that's on the card if you choose to do the action that says do the text. But then that's it. Then you're going to draw back up to your 5 cards, and then it's the next person's turn. And that's all the game is. Some of the cards allow you to play multiple cards, so you can drop down 3, 4, 5 cards, maybe even more if you could draw some and then play more, and back and forth, back and forth. But that's all the game is. You're going to be putting these people out, trying to control areas. There's a few more rules where if it's the first time another unit from another player, so if I have something in this area and you put something in there, we're going to have a conflict token that goes there, and that's all it does. It doesn't do anything, we just have conflict there. Certain cards play on those conflicts. Now, if a piece is ever removed out of that location, regardless of whose it is, that token gets removed. So what that means is if I have a piece in there, and then you put, say, 1 or 2 pieces in there, and then you move one of your pieces out, we still have pieces there, but you moved one of your 2 pieces out, that token gets removed with it. Anytime anything is moved out, a conflict token gets removed. But that's the basis of the game. You're going to be exploiting those tokens to try to get, move other people out, or maybe get them assassinated or get them killed. And your overall goal is to complete your objective. So this game is really, really interesting. There is a fairly decent bit of variety between some of the objectives. So for example, you win if you have Monsieur de Sidonia, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. You win if you start your turn with $50 or more. So people can see that and kind of work towards it and force you to give me money and force you to give them money. Professor Moriarty, you win at the beginning of your turn if you have a certain number of agents in different areas on the board, and then depending on the number of players, so like 2 players you have 11 different, 3 players you have 10 different, so on and so forth. So if you start just spread out all over the place, then you win, but your goal is always at the start of your turn if you accomplish your goal. So and then on the back of the little reference sheet, it shows what everybody's goal could be, like all of the different goals. So you're able to look at that and look at the board and go, okay, well, they're spreading out a lot, so they might be Moriarty, but they could be screwing with you and slowly just trying to gain control, because you gain control if you have the most units there. Because you're also going to be able to put down buildings, which I didn't mention in the beginning. You're going to be able to put down buildings which are super expensive, but when you put down a building, you get a card that just gives you a super cool ability that you can use at the beginning of your turn or sometime during your turn, and the card will tell you when you can use it, but it's just a free thing you get to do every round. So getting those buildings out is very important. But they also count towards 1 power. So if I have a building and 2 dudes in there, that's 3 power. That's going to be a little difficult for you to overwhelm without murdering a bunch of people or working together with your opponents, which is kind of where the draw of this game comes from. It's really interesting because when I first started playing it, I had kind of an inkling of Chaos in the Old World, which is one of my all-time favorite games. It is phenomenal. Theme aside, I love the theme. Theme probably is what bumps it up a little bit more, but I love the type of game, just like I love Blood Rage, because it's Chaos in the Old World, in my opinion, is better than Blood Rage, but they have very, very, very similar systems in them. And this kind of felt like that as well, because you have the different regions around the board. You're trying to have control and move people out and moving them around, and you're all trying to stab each other in the back and screw each other over and figure out what you're trying to do. What am I trying to do? And there's so much going on, so much you have to think about. It's a really, really fun. Now, some people, however, are going to be turned off by the action selection in this game. With the action selection, like I mentioned, you're going to have your hand of 5 cards, and you're going to play one of those cards, and that's it. That's all you do, unless your card says you can play other cards. Then you can chain off cards and stuff like that. But if you wind up not getting good cards, it's going to be real hard to do anything, really. In one of my games, I wound up losing purely because I could not get cards that would get me towards my objective. No matter what I did, I just could not get cards that would get me towards my goal. And it was really annoying. But with that said, it doesn't seem to happen very often, and it is kind of luck of the draw. But then there's another thing that you have to think about, because when you're playing those cards, drawing event cards, because a lot of the really good cards require you to also draw event cards. And those event cards could end the game super quick. There's one card, I don't remember which one it is, but it's shuffled into the events, and if it's drawn, the game is over at the end of that round, and then you just go off of like points. And it's really interesting at that point, because you really want to play this card, but is it gonna be worth it? Do you really want to risk ending the game super early? Maybe you're close to winning, but you think they're gonna win, and so there's just a lot going on. But a lot of people are not gonna like that kind of luck of the draw. You're at the mercy of those cards, but you should have 5 cards to be able to play with to kind of circulate some kind of strategy. Out of all the games we played, that only really happened in general just one time for a few turns. So I just wound up being a little behind. I caught back up, and I think I won that game, actually. Another issue that we do have with this game, keeping in mind that I do have a prototype copy of the game, so I'm not sure if this is what the final product is going to look like, but the board feels a little small. It feels a little small, feels very cramped as the game goes on and people are putting more and more stuff out on the board. And of course, things are going to be getting taken off and put back on and moving around and all that. But the board feels a little small and it feels a little cramped, especially if you're playing with a full complement of 4 players. The board definitely feels like it should be a little bit bigger, and maybe have the lines that separate all the different regions of the board, maybe have them a bit brighter, or something that pops a little bit better, because there was a lot of times where it was really difficult at a glance to look and see what's on there when you look at your cards and you're looking out, okay, what can I do? And you had to really, a lot of the time, look, okay, this is where that border is, these are there, so these are not there, these are over here, because the outlay of some of those areas are also really difficult to see just kind of at a glance. I just feel if the board was like 25, maybe 50% bigger, it would alleviate some of those problems. Other than that, those are the biggest problems that we had at the game. Nanty Narking is really interesting. There's a lot of thought and just an interesting thought process that goes into playing this game, because you could have a very similar goal to somebody else, and you're now trying to figure out, okay, how are you going to achieve yours without helping them and without making it blatantly obvious what yours is. And there's just a lot of behind the scenes kind of like, how am I going to screw everybody else over and get myself into a position to hold my position until the beginning of the next round? Because that's where the key is you have to hold your victory until the beginning of your next round. So if you wind up outing yourself too early about how you're going to get these, that you're so close to winning, or yada yada yada, everybody can work together and screw you over. Or if somebody is keen and sly and looks and goes, wait a minute, if they have such and such objective, they're winning their next turn, we've got to stop that. So you can use that to your advantage, though, as how you spread. Do you want to make it look like you have one objective when you actually have another one and you're kind of working towards both, but you're making it look like this one? But then the one you're trying to make it look like is actually your objective. So there's so much going on behind the scenes of this game. It is really, really fun. The only other minor gripe that I can have that a couple players did have is some players may feel kind of lost and a little confused because of all the different objectives and kind of how they're going to go about doing it. Some players may feel a little lost on how to achieve their goal without being thwarted at every stop. And the last minor thing is it is a very aggressive game as well, so if you don't like a lot of aggression, a lot of take that and screw that guy kind of game, then you may not like this game. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time in the quarantine.